If you're an author or plan to be one, get excited because this podcast is for you. Book Marketing Mentors is the only podcast dedicated to helping you successfully market and sell your book. If you're ready for empowering conversations with successful marketing mavens, then grab a coffee or tea and listen in to your host, international best-selling author Susan Friedman.
Welcome to Book Marketing Mentors, the weekly podcast where you learn proven strategies, tools, ideas, and tips from the masters. Every week, I introduce you to a marketing master who will share their expertise to help you market and sell more books. Today, my special guest is a high-profile, international award-winning publicist. Tracy Lamourie is the founder and managing director of Lamourie Media, Inc., accredited by the iconic Cannes International Film Festival. Tracy is also a Universal Women's Network 2020 Woman of Inspiration winner for the Women in Media Award. Wow, what a mouthful. She's the author of the upcoming book, Get Wrecked, Build Your Brand with Effective Public and Media Relations. She's been featured in Rolling Stone magazine, The Hollywood Times, NBC TV, and other major media. Tracy works across borders and across industries, from major entertainment projects to small businesses. Tracy, what an absolute pleasure it is to welcome you to the show. And thank you for being this week's guest expert and mentor.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me on. I'm thrilled to be here and to be talking to your audience, which I know is primarily comprised of nonfiction authors. And those are, honestly, with all sincerity, some of my favorite people to work with. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Well, we already have something major in common because, yes, they're my favorite people as well. Tracy, you are a pro. Obviously, this is your business in publicity, in media relations, publicity, and yet help me with this because I believe that most people, having been in this industry, don't really understand what it is. When they think publicity, when they think media, they think advertising, and yet it's far from that.
Exactly.
Let's start at the very beginning, understanding what publicity really means.
Absolutely. And I heard recently an amazing analogy, which I've been quoting ever since, to business audiences when I speak to entrepreneurs, but it's exactly the same effective for, this audience. So let's just explain what the differences are between marketing, advertising, and public relations, publicity, which obviously have some things in common in that they're all meant to get you heard and get you seen. But I believe, and I'll explain to you why in a minute, that PR is the most effective. So the analogy goes like this. If a young man and a woman are out on a date and the young man tells the young woman what a great job he has and how much money he has and how skilled he is, that's advertising. If he tells her she looks great and she's a great conversationalist and she knows what she's doing and all this, that's marketing because it's saying the right thing to the right person. If somebody else tells the date how accomplished and smart and brilliant her date is, that's PR. So PR is essentially third-party validation, somebody else talking about you, saying and doing the things, elevating you as an expert, which is relevant to the nonfiction authors because every one of you is an expert in something. And that's why you put, the proverbial pen to paper and why you're educating us about it or why you're writing about it in your book. You know things that others don't. That is of value to the media. So advertising, anybody can buy an ad. We're sophisticated these days, and that only goes so far. But the difference between what you say about yourself or what you pay an ad company to say about you versus what mainstream media, television, radio, newspapers, editorial versus advertorial. So what the editorial department says about you, that's reputation building. That's where you get that, thought leadership, the global reputation for whatever, your expertise is in your field. And that makes all the difference. And it can happen very quickly just with some quick media attention. I had one client literally after 6 weeks of working together, she told me we had changed her business and her life. And when I said, why? She said, well, you've taken investors take us more seriously, made investors take us more seriously. But by that same token, it makes everybody take you more seriously as the expert in whatever you're presenting. Yeah, that's the difference in what media can do. And I'll explain a little bit later. If not everybody has a publicist, not everybody can access a publicist, though this is editorial versus advertorial. Editorial is when you're talking about your expertise, like what I've been doing. Advertorial is where you talk about, yourself and your business and give a pitch, which is like me saying, oh, I work with anybody across industries. You can talk to me and we can work together. But editorial is me giving you valuable information. Like if you don't have a publicist, here are some steps that you can take and how you can access some media opportunities on your own so that you can start getting in the media mix. So I'd like to give a few hints on how people could do it on their own at some point too.
Wow. Listeners, that in and of itself, what Tracy's just shared with us is just a synopsis of everything. I mean, just great in terms of understanding those three different components, the marketing, the promotion, and then the publicity, that idea of it being third person, somebody else acknowledging that you're brilliant rather than you saying, hey, I'm an expert. I can do this. I can do that. People believe what other people say before they believe what you say. Tracy, let's dig a bit deeper here and look at authors using the media to build a brand for themselves. How can they do it? Where do they start? I mean, this is what everybody says. Well, where should I start with this?
The first thing I always say, and I'll tell you where to actually go on the internet where you can start for free in a minute. But first, before I send you there, I really want to make sure people really resonated with and understand that part about editorial versus advertorial, because it is not an opportunity. When you get to see these asks that I'm going to show you from television, radio, newspapers, podcasts, etc., asking for experts about things you can speak on, it is not an opportunity for free advertising. They'll be happy to send you to the ad department if you're looking for a free ad. They're businesses too. It is an opportunity to share your editorial knowledge, your expertise. And in so doing, that will get you better than advertising. It will get you mentioned in editorial, which is where you build that expertise for that reputation for thought leadership, where people are like, oh, I saw you on TV. I heard about you in Reader's Digest. Oh, I saw, which is literally, I can tell you from my own experience, if you Google my name, I've done a lot of that. I've started, over COVID, in addition to building my client's brand, I started answering questions and talking about my expertise, which is this. In doing that for 2 years, it's literally, I've gotten tons of 4 or 5 major awards now. Completely elevates you when you get yourself out there and people are able to, not only your customers see that you do well, that you know what you're doing, but that the world starts to see your expertise. So make sure you understand that when you see these asks for media, which I'm going to direct you to, it's not an opportunity to say, oh, my carpet cleaning company or my book about carpet cleaning is the best book about carpet cleaning. Please put this up. It's an opportunity for you to share the knowledge and expertise that you have. Then they will in return mention you, mention your book, mention your website, give you that backlink, or if it's an article, talk about you and quote you. So here's some places you can go if you don't have a publicist. But again, I want to reiterate that if you do have a marketing budget at all, that you've been thinking about advertising, put it aside for a month and don't do that. And maybe think about putting it to a publicist for a month, because even if you only do that for a month, when you walk away, you're going to see their pitch. You're going to have a better understanding of yourself as an expert. You're going to see how they present you, and you're going to have some initial media that you can use to build on and get other media. So if you do have any kind of budget where you don't have to reinvent the wheel, I'm happy to talk to anybody. And that is the advertorial portion of this message. But here we go back to the editorial. This is some actual tips of what you can do and where you can go right now if you do not have a budget to get a publicist, but you want, and I'm telling you, if you start doing this for a week or two, even if you don't answer any of what you see, it's going to be a real education and a real eye-opening moment for you to understand what kind of media opportunities there are for free for somebody who presents the right kind of information in a timely manner. One of the free services is called HARO, Help a Reporter Out, and it's well loved among publicists and smart entrepreneurs and experts of every kind. So that's HARO, Help a Reporter Out. You go to their website, you sign up on an email list, you can get it daily as a digest form or 3 times a week or day or whatever it is, or special to specifically what your topic is. Like if you were, writing about real estate, you would maybe just want the real estate ones. If you were writing about a lifestyle thing, you maybe just want the lifestyle ones. I look at all of them because you never know where you're going to see something that someone might answer. And you see really high profile things. Like almost all the major media you can think of uses these. So Help a Reporter Out is one free one. Usually US centric, that one. One that is UK centric, but also has some international, is just a hashtag, which is hashtag journal request. JOURNO request on Twitter. One that's very Australian centric, but again, globally, you can answer things there, is called Source Bottle, SOURCE bottle. All of those are free services. Hashtag journal request on Twitter, Source Bottle, the website, and Hero Help Reporter Out, which is the website and email list. Those are all places that you can go right now and start daily, mostly Monday to Friday, seeing all kinds of requests for all kinds of media opportunities where you see things like, for Fortune magazine with a deadline of 2 p.m., I'm looking to speak to, entrepreneurs who were never. For the Authors Association with a deadline of 5, I'm looking to speak to nonfiction writers who were never. For a million things. So whatever the topic of your book is, there's something out there for you. And if not today, there'll be something there tomorrow. Then there's also, the stepping up the ladder of those kind of PR tools. There's the kind that publicists pay several $100s a month for, which are essentially the same kind of services, but more reporters use them and they're quicker, better response. We get things earlier on them. So there's things like Quoted that I pay a few $100s a month for, QWOTED, or there's editorial out of the UK. So there's a whole bunch of services. And if you have a good publicist, they're already looking through all these for hours a day for other clients, and they're spending a few minutes finding them for you and then sending them your way, and boom, boom, boom. You only have to deal with it, the ones that are relevant to you. But if you have more time than money, do it yourself. At least start to figure it out, check out the landscape. And remember, again, before you reach out to anybody, really make sure that you're understanding, you're answering what they're asking. You're not taking it as an opportunity to be too advertorial. You're giving them good and valuable information. And then you have a little bio at the end, which is, why you're an expert in this situation. So your little bio, or your link to your website, or your link to your LinkedIn. And that's it. From there, you never know what you're going to be quoted in. I've gotten clients literally using just those services alone, not even using press releases, in everything from New York Magazine to Oprah Magazine to major newspapers in the States, in Utah and in Texas and in Florida. I've gotten clients on morning television shows that way, in just all kinds of major media. So that's the first ones that I mentioned are free to go and look at and to take opportunities from. If you do only one thing today, from all of this, it doesn't cost you anything to go over there, start looking at them, and even just begin to get your head around the kind of opportunities that exist that you can try to frame, try to figure out, and try to get in on, or be, what the first steps the publicist would be taking for you.
And that's so incredible, those free resources. So thank you for those. And you actually mentioned something that I was just going to talk about, and that is press releases. When I was working in publicity and PR, we did press releases all the time. Now, are they still alive? Is there value in writing press releases these days? And if so, what is the best approach with them?
I think there is, for sure. And there's a lot of debate about it. There's been people have been saying the press release is dead for a while and stuff, but really, call it a media advisory, call it a press release, whatever. So some of the old formalities may not exist, and it doesn't go out on the wire. There's different wires now you can put it on, but I usually recommend you send directly to reporters. So it's not the same as it always was. But in terms of, it's a press release or a media advisory, whatever you want to call it, reaching out with your messaging. Sure, you have to, some media hates it. Some people hate it, reporters, because they'll say they hate it because they get, 1,000 emails a day and 99% of them are not relevant to them. And that's where you have to be the 1% that where you've done your research and you are relevant and you're presenting the right story to the right person. That's where it's not a cut and paste, send to 500 job. If you're doing it that way, yeah, you might as well not be doing it. If you just write a press release and do a CC to 50 reporter emails, you might as well just, not doing it. You're doing more harm to yourself than good. But if you craft a well-written press release with a good subject line and you're sending it to the right reporter, even better, if you have time to send it individually, hey, Bob, here's a story you'd love. You're going to get 33% numbers, say, more pickup rate. So it might take a little bit more time to do that or have your publicist do that. But it could result in, some major, major pickup. And it only takes one. I had one client. She wasn't even an author. She didn't even have I guess she had a small business. She was a coach, like a life coach, like a lot of people. And then she was amazing. She had a lot of really good history personally that really informed her work. But on paper, she didn't really have anything to differentiate herself. And she was only 26 years old, no prior media. She hired me. She told me her backstory, which was really good. Literally, so I start looking through the Heralds and all these things. And literally the very next day, I find a reporter from Good Housekeeping magazine, one of the major print magazines in the world, at every single checkout counter, who's looking for women from between 20 and 40 to share their personal stories similar to hers. I contacted them. I got them in touch. She was willing to do the interview. They loved her. Turned out her very first media right out the gate, with zero media ever, was a major article. Her picture wasn't on the cover, but the article was one of the stories written on the cover of Good Housekeeping magazine. And from there, she literally pays me every month now, because we continue to do media, because she's able to get almost any media, speaking engagement, anything she wants in the mental health realm, purely on the strength of that one article we got in my first 3 hours of work in Good Housekeeping magazine for her. You never know what's going to develop. And that's not even, irregular. Using those things, I've gotten clients, like I said, in, New York Magazine, Oprah Magazine, several newspapers, all kinds of stuff. So there's a ton of opportunity literally just going by every day that somebody's grabbing, but that most people don't know are there to grab. So they're missing them unless they're working with a publicist, or unless they've considerable time looking into some of these things and finding these opportunities, learning how to effectively answering them, and then getting, some of these media opportunities.
Yeah, as you rightly say, you never know what might come of it. I mean, that was a brilliant example. One of the techniques that I used, and I've used in the past, is to write articles on a consistent basis and write them for the trade publications, the professional industry publications, where I was looking to become an expert in. Is that still something that you recommend to people? Writing articles on a regular basis?
For sure. Online, that's where you hear the blogging and the guest blogging. And also, for sure, in publications and in newspapers. And quite often, I'll have a client do what you call this too, is like an op-ed. There's two ways to approach this too. You can do an op-ed, which is like an opinion editorial, in which case you kind of pick the one media that you think it's perfect for. You send it to them, and you have to wait 3 or 4 days for them to say yay or nay, because they would not want to be printing something that's going to be printed in others. It's like an exclusive, right? But then the other opportunity, and I should have answered this in terms of the press release question too, because I often say one of the reasons press releases have become less effective in some ways than they used to be is because media rooms no longer have, 20 people sitting around that the assignment editor can assign an article to, because the press release isn't the article. It's, meant to instigate them to go do a news interview or an article of their own. And sometimes they'll love the release and everything, but they just don't have anybody to apply to that story. So, and this doesn't work with all media, because some media, it's just, they only have their staff writers and that's it. But then it worked well with some newspapers, or smaller newspapers, or even some weeklies, dailies, where you say, okay, here's our press release. We'd love for you to interview my client. But if you can't, or if you don't have the bandwidth in the newsroom for that, here's an article that my client has written. So the client could be any expert. Say you're a nonfiction writer that wrote a book about dogs. And so I wrote the press release about this. They should interview you about, this story about dog, blah, blah. But if they can't, here's an attached royalty-free article that my client, the author of the book, wrote that you can use freely. So it's not going to be an exclusive like an op-ed would be, where we can only send it to one at a time and then wait till they approve or deny, then we send to another, in which case it could be old news, right? But it's royalty-free article, the way they would use, though they had got an article off the wire that they subscribe to, where they can print it and put it in their paper without. So in those cases, they wouldn't pay you for the article, but you would have the opportunity to write. I wouldn't recommend you put a piece of your book in there, but you write a fresh little 1,000-word article or something about dogs at Christmas, in the dog analogy I'm using, by the author of this brand new dog book. Then they can use that piece for free in the paper. Why do I want to let them use it for free? Well, because then our exact messaging is going out exactly the way we want it. It's not an opportunity to get paid. I'm not looking for opportunities to get, my work is going to result in you selling more books, and that's going to be, and maybe getting more speaking engagements, depending on what our goal is. But I'm not going out there looking for an opportunity to get paid for media. Media doesn't pay. What it does is elevate you and bring you more opportunities and bring you onto more stages and get people more excited about working with you, buying your book, interviewing you, et cetera, et cetera.
And yeah, in reality, that's exactly what you can look to expect and aim for. One of the things that you talked about earlier, Tracy, was doing your research, especially when it comes to, let's say, sending out a press release to an editor. Talk to us about the kind of research that authors should be doing before they approach the media.
I wouldn't even start with even saying research, number one, but just really understand the difference between the editorial and the advertorial. And I'm going to use an entrepreneur as example for this because I have a really good story. He wasn't an author, but any expert, in terms of what I'm talking about here is really the same. Because for the media, whether you have a book, I always say there's about 20% of media that wants to talk about the book. It's book specific. And the rest of media is just about ideas. And the fact that you have a book is the same as if you had a company or whatever. It's like your calling card to make you the expert, right? So there's two angles of promotion. There's marketing and promoting the book, getting it on best of list, getting it on holiday list, getting it on lists of the best book to give to your mother, sister, daughter. You know what I mean? Like all those. And then there's the opportunities for you as an expert to speak. So I had one opportunity for a client who owned a contractor business. Because like I said, I have everything from filmmakers to small entrepreneurs because anybody can have media opportunities. In this case, he owned a contractor business, and we were just starting to get him some media, so he wasn't really understanding the web and flow of how it worked yet. And we had a Reader's Digest media opportunity where they were doing an article about how difficult it is to do bathroom renovations. And they wanted to get some quotes from experts on, more effective ways to do this or that. So when I told him that, I said, please send me your quote. He sent back something literally with something like, and this is supposed to be for an article in Reader's Digest, right? Something that was literally like, oh, well, it's really hard to do bathroom renovations. So instead of doing that, call Bob's Bathroom Renovations. Well, obviously, they're not going to put that in Reader's Digest in an article about how to do renovations on your own. He would have lost if I had to coach him and said, no, what you have to do here is say what they're looking for is, oh, it's hard to replace your sink. So when you're going to replace your sink, do this. This is step 2. This is step 3. It's not an opportunity for you to find literally an ad trying to direct customers or readers to your company. That's not what Reader's Digest is going to put in their article about how to do your own bathroom reno. It's an opportunity for you to show your expertise, share your expertise, and then after the paragraph where they're quoting you, even if all they says Bob from Bob's Bathroom Renovations in Georgia, that's huge. Now later on, I've seen in Reader's Digest, look, you grab that social, you take that picture, you put it on your socials, you put it in your investor's deck, you put it on your website, as quoted in Reader's Digest, and then you get another one. Oh, now I'm quoted in, Martha Stewart Living. Oh, this is how easy it is when you start working with a publicist, or if you can figure that out. So basically the way I, think about it too is you're doing what you're doing. You want to be getting on stages. You want to be selling books. You want to be speaking. You want to be doing whatever your expertise is. You may have a lot of nonfiction authors. They also have business that they also have. So you have all that stuff to run and you have all that stuff to do. If you have a couple of hours to take out of every day to learn to do this effectively, and then you have maybe a writer on your team that can help you with the writing, or you're a good writer yourself, do it. And if you have more time than money, figure this stuff out, figure out the landscape. Even if you only start with an hour a day, figure it out, do a little outreach here and there. But if you have a little bit of more money than time, or even a little bit of money, like I said, a marketing budget that you could apply to this, you could not spend better money, honestly, than having a publicist do some of this for you. And to make it all clear, whatever you think of some of these individuals or not, Bill Gates, who's one of the most successful, well-known, blah, 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 whatever people, he literally has said, if I had only $100 left, I'd spend it on public relations. And there's a reason for that, for media. You can write the best book you want. You can have all your clients love you, and that'll be limited word of mouth. You can do all those things. But if people don't know what you're doing, then people don't know what you're doing. And you're not able to expand. You're not able to sell more books. You're not able to, et cetera.
One of the things that you've said multiple times, Tracy, is a budget. Give us an idea of what a marketing or a publicity budget, what you'll be thinking of. Yes, if you've got $100, but in reality, what might be a monthly or an annual or a quarterly? What would you advise, especially starting out?
For sure. It's all over, and it can be intimidating if you call up a general PR place or somebody at my level, and I'll tell you why I've changed that to make it less intimidating and make it accessible. Generally, traditionally, it was something like $3,000 a month, 3 months minimum. Like when you go to a marketing company and they put out a particular marketing plan. So intimidating for most business people. Certainly intimidating for solopreneurs. Because I do so much speaking, and again, I'm not trying to be advertorial here, but I can't help but answer it my way because I only know my own company, right? What I do, for example, is because I do so much public speaking to audiences of solopreneurs and authors, and because I genuinely like those kind of projects better than working corporate around a big 15-person table and try to figure out who's going to be quoted and what they're going to say and how many days it's going to take for them to decide before I can answer the media. I definitely work hard to make the pricing accessible. In my case, if somebody's interested in working with me, what would be the price point? The lowest, if you only wanted 1 month and that was all you're going to do, it's the cheapest, but also the most expensive if you're going to keep doing it month to month. Basically, I have 3 different tiers. One is literally entry level for people who are just hearing about this for the first time and want to test it out and see how it will work for their company because they're going to be excited and they're going to keep on doing it. And then I have a middle tier for more established businesses, or you have a little bit more of a marketing budget and you can take more of my time and more whatever. It's basically how much time I'm going to put into it. Then I have a gold star level, which is priced for individuals, but it's still basically the same services you get at the Hollywood or corporate level, but priced for, human individual people. Even within those, there's all kinds of price ranges from 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. Basically, there's a huge range. You could start for something like $599 for a limited 1 month at the budget level, all the way up to $8,000 a year at the high end level, or like $3,000 a year at the low end budget level. So really, there's a huge range depending on the goals of the project, the needs of the project, how much time. Like if you have 3 businesses in the book and whatever, and you want to promote them all, then you're going to be at the higher end. Yeah, basically, the long story short is I've tried to price my services anyway so that people can try it out and fall in love with PR. Because as you can tell by my enthusiasm talking about it, I really believe that, I shouldn't say believe, I know for a fact this elevates people who deserve to the recognition from just sitting there working hard, to like being seen as the experts that they are, and to getting those stages, not because they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to these people who tell them how to get on stages or anything like that, but because they're legitimately being recognized for their expertise that they put in between, in your audience's case, the pages of a book. Some people, it's their expertise that they've poured into their business, or both. But either way, there are media opportunities that you do not have to pay for. You have to pay a publicist for unless you know how to do it yourself, you pay a publicist for their strategy, for their connections, for their writing skills, for their time, finding the opportunities and pitching you to them. But you cannot pay to get into these articles. You cannot call up Reader's Digest and say, I want to be the one quoted. You can buy an ad, sure, in Reader's Digest, but you will not ever get paid. You cannot pay to be that expert quoted. You just can't. And that is why it's that important third-party validation, why people have been saying since the dawn of television, as seen on TV, until they started using it for commercials, and everybody's, we're way too sophisticated to not recognize the difference between a commercial and actual third-party validation, which is if they interview a doctor or a lawyer on television, everyone usually thinks they must be the top expert doctor or lawyer in the field, or why would they be interviewing him on television? More often, it's usually because they wrote a press release that gave them the idea, or they had a publicist that made sure they were top of mind. Maybe you're an expert in something and you wonder, gee, why is that other guy always getting interviewed? How come they don't come to me? Because they don't just come and find you. You have to be out there and putting yourself into their headspace, just like you have to apply for, get out there for the decision makers for speaking engagements. And those are all things that publicists can do for you. But anyway, basically the price can be intimidating if you just call up a random PR company that's working corporate. But I'm sure that I'm not the only one that does special pricing for small businesses, for entrepreneurs, and certainly for authors. But I know I do. So if you like, anything I've had to say, I'm more than happy to talk to any authors, because honestly, like I say, I work with a lot of people from entertainment to entrepreneurs. But something about, I always wanted to be an author. I had nonfiction writers who they're already experts in their field. Sometimes they're already entrepreneurs. Sometimes they just have a message to share, but they have the passion to sit down and get that message out and worked really hard to do it. And then a lot of times I hear from them, they're just now, they just stop. What do they do now? How do they get it out to the audience? So we're that essential component in PR that helps you reach that audience, helps your message reach that audience, and helps elevate you to where you should be as the expert that you are, basically.
Yeah, all that we're missing now, Tracy, which is fabulous. And I do not know a PR agency that does what you do in terms of having pricing that is realistic for entrepreneurs, and especially nonfiction authors who, they've already invested a lot of money in putting their book together, getting it published. Then now it's like the most important component, which is the marketing, the promotion, the publicity, the PR. So tell us how our listeners can find you. And I believe you also have a free gift for us.
I do. If anybody wants to tell me that they've heard me on Susan's show, then absolutely, I'm happy to do a free consult, a half hour, an hour, whatever. And I mean, it's not a sales call where I'm just trying to pitch you. We're literally going to talk about what you do, and I can tell you what you could expect and give you a little bit of direction about what you should do. How do you can advance yourself if you can't move forward with a publicist? And then also what we would do if you decided to move forward with a publicist. I do put a lot of effort, and if anybody reads my backstory, I didn't come into PR to get the cool job with all the VIP parties and travel, though that's what's developed. I'm blessed. But I came into PR literally to do messaging. It came from an activist perspective. Originally, it was an 18-year campaign to help somebody. And that's how I learned how to do all of this. I'm not only money. Of course, I'm older now and I've got a family and I've got a business to run. And my business consultant always tells me it's not a charity, and I understand that. But still, I want that young activist me to still be proud of this corporate me. I do all this speaking to get people excited about it and educated about it. And I don't want the door to be closed because it's a $10,000 price point to get in. So my price point to get in is $5.99 if you could only do 1 month right now. But I always recommend the 3 months when there's specials, you get a month free, blah, 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 blah. Now we're way too advertorial, but you get the point. I try to really, truly make it accessible so that when you hear me and think, oh, gee, I need that, you're not like, oh, but I can't afford it.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And I'll put your website, Lamourie Media, in the show notes so that
Wonderful.
anyone or all the people who want to speak with you, which I really highly, highly recommend listeners that not only listen to this several times because Tracy talks really fast. I can barely keep up with the speed. And that's okay because you have managed to fill this time with so much wisdom and gems. We always end off, Tracy, as you know, with asking our guests to share a golden nugget. So, nice, quick golden nugget for our listeners.
I have a favorite, and I will quote my friend Jimmy Dennis, who was the reason I wrote my first press release a long time ago. If anybody wants to Google R&B artist, Jimmy Dennis, who spent 20 years factually innocent on death row. We became involved with that case, and that's how we learned to write a press release. He always said, never, never give up before he was released in 2017, factually innocent. Well, we always say, even when you have a bad moment after the never, never give up, because everybody, you can feel down or depressed. I always say to him and to everyone, we didn't get this far to only get this far. And I mean that really, because that works for whether you're accomplishing your goals, whether you're hitting those goals, whether you're doing it, and you still have further to go. It's great for you. And I feel like that sometimes, but it's also for that person who is having trouble getting up in the morning, who doesn't feel they're hitting their goals, who has, ambition, but maybe they feel like they haven't made it. They're just depressed or whatever else. You didn't get this far to only get this far. You made it this far past all the naysayers, your own naysaying, all the depression, all the whatever it is, and you're still here. So keep on going. You don't know what's behind around the corner. Honestly, keep going. You make your own. This isn't false positivity, but you form your own viewpoint, and that's how things generally progress. And if you let those roadblocks that come up in front of you, whether they're mountains or molehills, get you down, they're going to get you down. But if, like Jimmy Dennis, when you were on death row and everybody thought you were done, you keep on saying never, never give up. And then after that, when you get through another day, you say, well, you know what? I didn't get this far to only get this far. You keep on going. And that's for business. That's for personal. That's for whatever. But I think that's a real little thing to hold on to. When you need some motivation, when things are going good, you want to keep going a little further. But even more importantly, when things don't feel so good.
Oh, that's wonderful. Great wisdom. And thank you so much for sharing that. This has been pretty amazing. And as I said, listeners, you've got to go back and listen to this several times so that you can really capture all the incredible nuggets that Tracy has shared with us. And by the way, if your book isn't selling the way you wanted or expected to, let's you and I jump on a quick call together to brainstorm ways in which you can really ramp up those sales. You've invested a whole lot of time, energy, and money, and we've talked about that with Tracy, and it's time that you really got a return and the return you were hoping for. Go to brainstormwithsusan.com to schedule your free call, and in the meantime, I hope this powerful interview sparks some ideas you can use to sell more books. So until next week, here's wishing you much book and author marketing success.